Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. So California already makes it almost impossible for firearms manufacturers to get their product in the state. And that's before the bill that Newsom just signed. But before that, people had to jump through hoops. They had to make something that was California compliant. So they had to change the features, change the way that it operates, make it so that it can be brought into the state. If it was something that would end up on the roster, well, good luck. You're pretty much shut out of that unless it has a bunch of features that don't even exist. And the roster just keeps shrinking. So as you can see, stuff that's brought in right now is starting to shrink. There's not as many things going into California as there was before. But now California's Governor Gavin Newsom signs this new bill into law, and that should pretty much end everything else. So let's talk about it. Now, before we go any further, if you wouldn't mind, hit that subscribe button. It's free. It only takes a second, but it helps me out quite a bit. And check out the sponsor of this channel, which is the USCCA. With your membership, you get self-defense liability insurance, concealed carry magazine, you get national reciprocity maps, online training and education, and so much more. That'll be down below.
You cannot sell, you cannot manufacture, you cannot transfer these illegal weapons of war and mass destruction in the state of California. And if you do, there are 40 million people that can collect $10,000 from you and attorney fees for engaging in that illegal activity.
Now, all of this revolves around a bill that was recently signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom, which is AB 1594. Now, we already talked about how difficult it is to get product into California to begin with, and we barely scratch the surface. It's time-consuming, labor-intensive. It cuts into profits. I mean, it doesn't make too much sense to send things there, but there's a lot of great companies out there who believe in our rights, and they want Californians to be able to have stuff, so it goes. But AB 1594 is pretty much going to close that door altogether. So what 1594 does is it allows Californians, California residents, the California state government and city governments to sue what they call irresponsible manufacturers for harm caused by their products. So now you have difficult to get in, and once you're in there, you've now opened yourself up to some of the biggest liabilities that you could ever possibly imagine. Some that most companies probably would never ever recover from. Now, when you think about the small guy, right, that's sending his stuff over to California, he's taking a lot of risk as it is right now. But knowing that he could pretty much have his entire business shut down, which does business with the entire country, right? His business could be shut down by frivolous lawsuits that are filed because something happened to somebody else and somebody used something in a way that they shouldn't, and California deemed it to be irresponsible and there was harm caused, and so the lawsuit continues, right? They get a lawsuit, they get shut down, they can't afford the legal fees or whatever it is. And you might think to yourself, well, what about the bigger companies? Now, granted, I have talked to some of the smaller companies who are already saying, we don't think we can do business in California anymore. It's just, it wasn't really all that profitable to begin with, but now you add this and nobody wants to take that risk. But you think about some of the bigger companies and you're probably thinking, well, they can afford legal teams, they can afford expenses, they can afford to fight back against this stuff in court and so forth. Well, a lot of these are actually traded. They're publicly owned companies that are traded, and they're beholden to their shareholders, to a board, and so forth. And so when this actually takes effect and it starts, the risk has to be analyzed by these companies. And if that risk is analyzed to be not worth the profits that are made and so forth, right? If the share cost is going to be affected or hurt by that new law, they could pull out altogether to begin with as well. So even though it would end the small companies, it would be such a burden to the larger companies and to any company that's publicly traded that they're not going to take that risk. I personally do not think that they're going to take that risk and continue to send their stuff over there and leave themselves open to these lawsuits. Now, here's one thing that you want to remember about these lawsuits. This is one of the most important things you want to remember about these lawsuits, is that it's, so an individual, right, if I wanted to file one, you know, maybe I'd have to go and I'd have to get a lawyer. I'd have to go through the process of hiring somebody and spending the money and so forth. No, you don't have to do any of that in California. You don't have to spend the money on a lawyer. You don't have to retain anybody or anything like that. You simply bring your case to either the California Department of Justice, or you can bring it to a city prosecutor or a district attorney. Any of these people can file on your behalf. And so if you were to sue, then you would just simply take it to one of those people. Don't worry about the lawyers, don't worry about the legal fees or anything like that. California is going to take care of it for each person. Now, I can't even imagine what that's going to cost the taxpayers of California. You know, if people start just going to the DA and saying, hey, this happened to my cousin, this happened to so-and-so, I want you to do something about it, I'd like to file suit, right? California is on the hook. California residents are on the hook to pay for all of those. But regardless, that's how easy they're making it in California. And so not only are there just absolute ridiculous regulations to get things in, but now they're going to basically try and bankrupt anybody that shows up in front of the district attorney's office. You know, any manufacturer that winds up on this list of so-called irresponsible. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But again, from the people that I've talked to, which is mostly smaller companies, they don't think that it's going to be profitable. They don't want to take on the risk of not being able to feed their families and pay for their mortgage and their car note and everything else. They got to risk all that just to send something into California, and they're not sure if it's worth it anymore. And so even though the list is already small of what you can get in California, expect it to get significantly smaller pretty soon. Once this takes place, I think you're going to see the first suit come down, and then after that, it'll either be downhill or the lawsuit will lose, in which case everything will start going uphill. But hopefully there is something that could be done in the courts to stop this, because it's absolutely ridiculous. But I wanted to make you guys aware of it, because especially if you live in California and you're sick of the fact that you can't get everything that everybody else has, this is going to make that problem so much worse. So I want to thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Hopefully things one day maybe turn around in California. I mean, fingers crossed, but we'll see. You guys have a great day.